All right.
Yeah.
Yo, this is Just a Thought podcast. We are back with another one. Shout out to Andre. He couldn't be here with us today, but shout out to him. Hope he's having a great week. But we have a special guest on today's show. My homie, my brother. I am so happy to have this guy in my life. I'm so happy that he has known me for years. He's watched me grow. I've watched him grow, and it's been a pleasure to have you on the show. Introduce yourself, my brother.
Thank you, Ray. Thank you. So my name is Patrick Magnant. Me and Ray were actually roommates in college when we were studying the world of health and fitness.
Yes,
It's been
sir.
quite some time. Ray has been a brother to me, a best friend to me from the moment we met. There's just some people who you just want them to not only be well, but you want them to live well too. And Ray
Mm.
was one of those gentlemen that crossed my path. So I'm very thankful to be here to kind of share my story and what I've been up to. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, bro. I don't. I think we started hanging out in like 2012, bro. I think it's
Yeah,
been
probably
over 10 years,
2013. Yeah, right around there. Hmm.
bro. When I'm not gonna lie, bro, when I first met you, I was like, all right, this dude is, because you're bigger than a lot of people.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah, I've told
I'm,
that before. Yeah.
I'm like, okay, because I think I was during this time, I was at a point in my life where I like to work out, but I wasn't dedicated to it.
Mm.
So meeting you was like, okay, now I have somebody that is going to give me the knowledge. Now I have somebody that is just as excited about lifting weights or so when I met you, I was like, all right, dude is first of all, he's a good dude. Second
Mhm.
of all, we have a
Thank you.
lot in common. Third of all, he loves to lift weights. This is what he does. He trains people. He loves to see people grow.
Mm.
So when I started getting my knowledge from you, I was like, all right, I have this knowledge. Now I need to apply it to the gym. And because of you, man, you are one of the reasons why till this day that I'm obsessed working out, trying to
That
make
means a
myself
lot.
better than the next day. A couple years ago, I hit a plateau. So a couple years ago, I hit a plateau. I was doing everything right. But the thing was, I was like, okay, there's something missing from my training. There's something missing. I look good. The physique is good. There's just I'm not getting that extra kick. So I remember, hanging out with you in college. You telling me, yo, if you ever hit a plateau, trick your body to do something else. So every time I feel like I need more, I always go back to that message that you get me. Trick your body, continue to find something that can help you get to the next step. So, dude, from the first moment I met you, you gave me the knowledge, you gave me everything I needed to help start my transformation. And I bless you for that, bro.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Yeah. So to basically wrap it up, the last 7, 8 years. So I graduated from college in 2015. In June 12th of 2015, I launched my own little business called Magnant Muscle. It's located in
Mm,
North Vermont, and
that's
I take a pretty big holistic approach in training people. I got my degree in exercise science, and then I went along to coin some licenses as a nutritionist and also a geneticist coach, where I train people based off their DNA.
mm,
So that kind of blossomed into me not only meeting a variety of people, but allowing me to train many different types of people from backgrounds. So, a good way of how I like to look at it is my job started off with me simply people contacting me wanting that one-on-one private help with knowledge on whether it would be physiology, biomechanics, nutrition, injury recovery, or even strength and conditioning for athletes of some sport. What I did not see coming, or I did not expect to have happened or developed, was after about 1.5 years of kind of doing that, more and more people kind of needed my help. And
Mm.
I think a big piece of that ended up being building a rapport with those people. You know, a lot of people will look at you like, okay, that trainer's really fit, you know, he's very muscular, he's athletic, but you know, he's not very personable. It's hard to buy into what he's saying, because I don't know if I really trust him. He's not very friendly, he's combative, you know, even sometimes argumentative at times. And as much as I loved working out and especially training with you in college, like I always really generally tried to be, you know, a little, you know, calmer, open hearted with them. And that led to the idea of the logo of my company, which is Dare to Be Strong, but the slogan is your strongest muscle is your heart. And
Mm.
you would be absolutely amazed, Ray, how no matter what client I have, right now, my youngest is 15, my oldest is 92. I train people
Ooh.
all in the state of Vermont, and I've even had some down in Florida that I was very fortunate to develop those relationships with.
Mm.
And one common factor that I have with whatever the client is looking for, whether it's weight loss, get bigger, get stronger, whatever their desire is how little genuine encouragement it takes from someone who actually cares to see if they continue. Because we now know most people who start exercise regimens usually fall off the wagon in 3 months. You know,
Right.
their intentions are good and they want to become better. They want to increase longevity, be pain-free, lower inflammation, all these wonderful health benefits. But after 3 month mark, they kind of hit that wall where it's like, okay, I'm not really seeing a lot of things. And sometimes it only takes someone, whether myself or a coach or a coworker, a friend, another even training partner, just to come and say, hey, why don't we take, you know, a subjective look at how you're training? You know, what is your frequency? What movements are you doing? What is your recovery? How is your eating? You know, are you training even correctly for what you're trying to achieve? Or are you doing exercises that make perfect sense for this type of goal? You're training hard, but you're doing something that actually may not benefit you. And then that's where a trainer can come in and take a kind of multifactorial look at what they're doing, bring some knowledge to the table and say, okay, here's what we now know to be true. Another way I like to wrap that up is the body doesn't change, but what we know about it does. So the
I
more
like
we
that one.
know, we've been the same for a good 100,000 years, but we continue to learn more on how we work, how we recover, and how we grow. So, yeah, it's been 7 years, and I've been able to do this full time, continuing my education every 2 years because depending on who you get your licenses through, on top of my degree, you just staying on top of the information that comes out, and being proactive with that. Like I spend a lot of time reading strength and conditioning journals, things from the INH, the CDC, you know, making ACSM, going through what they're publishing so I can then take that information and relay it to the people that put their trust in me. It's not just their money. It's they're putting when they come to you and say, hey, I hate the way I look. I'm depressed. I don't have any friends. And I feel like I'm going to be this way. This is how the world looks at me. And that's it. And that's not it. And it kind of wraps back around to that first statement, like how little genuine encouragement someone needs in the world of fitness. And you can see that in any gym all over the world. You know, you look at someone in the gym who's
Yeah.
struggling. Sometimes you just have to go over to them and say, hey, man, like, welcome. Glad to see you here, you know?
Yeah.
And that's one
Yeah.
benefit of being self-employed. So one big difference between Magnant Muscle and other commercial gyms is there's trainers who work for gyms, whereas I travel to different gyms or people's homes. So I get this, I've seen many, many different avenues. Obviously you have to make sure the gym allows you to be there, and you pull up your licenses and your insurances to make
Right.
sure. But it's been quite a journey. It's a lot of work. Because when someone finally says, hey, can you help me do this? And the moment they trust you, it usually takes about 5 or 6 sessions, but the moment you pass that point and they're texting, you know, hey coach, or hey Pat, like, what should I do here? What can I do that? So how I try to, you know, help them when I'm not around them, right? So as a trainer, most of the time you work with someone maybe 2 to 3 times a week. Sometimes it can be more depending on what they really want or their availability or my availability. So one thing I do to try to set myself apart from the other fitness trainers in the world or whoever is whenever my clients go out of town, I always tell them, you text me a picture of the hotel gym that you're staying at. I'll send you a little workout. Or if you're going out to eat with your family or your girlfriend or your buddies or a business meeting, take a picture of the menu, send it to me. I'll help you pick out a food item. And I have found I have found great response from people, very much praise and like gratitude and just people really thanking me for that, and it doesn't take long, a little message saying, hey, okay, I want you to have this with this, or I want you to do 6 sets of this and do a drop set of that. Whereas most of the time, and you see this in other parts of the health industry, right? Where if you need to get a hold of a doctor, it's damn near impossible. Where, you got to make an appointment and then you go through this hoop, and it's very difficult to get right to the horse's mouth of what they want you to do, right?
Yeah.
And you see that with and I've had clients themselves tell me, it's like, I could never get a hold of him or her. So I was like, okay, well, how can I help fix that problem? Now, granted, eventually they're going to have to learn to walk that path on their own, right? The best clients and the ones that enjoy it and, they reach what they want and then they go about their lives and hopefully they can take something that I have taught them along with them. So they continue to work out. That's the big thing. Create as many positive possible outcomes for them to have success. And that's kind of what I like to, or at least that's my attempt. I try to do that the best I can. So yeah.
Dude, you're doing your thing, man. You don't like, I like the humble message, but you're doing what you said you were going to do in the beginning. But let's talk about the beginning of Magnant Muscle. Tell me about what the beginning was like for you, like doing this business on your own.
Yeah.
What was that like?
That's a good question. So looking back at that initial idea, I can remember sitting in the cafeteria of the college and asking a gentleman named Randy,
Randy,
who was very good, very creative thinking man. And I had just kind of dropped an idea to him that I was trying to figure out like a logo, because I always was passionate about working out. I enjoyed working with people one-on-one. I was able, and I was fascinated with the body, right? So not only was I able to read and comprehend the literature, I found that I could apply it to myself. I had success. I was able to get quite athletic and muscular, but I also felt like I could teach it in a different way that most people could relate to, and then once again apply to their lives. So as graduation was coming, I was like, okay, now I'm out in the real world. What am I going to do? I don't. And that's a scary feeling for everyone.
It is a scary feeling, yes.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, I spent the last 4 years studying this. I would like to put it to good work. So I came up with a name. This Muscle Magnant or Magnant Muscle kind of went really well with my name. And I thought I just played well. And I had Randy, he came up with a couple logo ideas for me. And then June 12th, of 2015 is when I launched it. And I'm still learning this. The biggest problem for myself going through being a young entrepreneur, even though I've lasted 7 years, is I went to school to study the body. I didn't go to school for business. And that has come back to bite me a little bit. I think anyone, like I said, taking a real honest approach to these questions that you're asking is I probably should have took some business courses. I've been very fortunate to have, 2 loving parents who have given me a lot of guidance. And I've also
shout out to your parents, bro.
Yes,
I love them to death, man.
I will definitely tell them we spoke. And I also would say I learned a lot from the clients I trained, because once you establish that rapport that you're not just some muscle guy and they open up to you, it allowed an opportunity for me to learn from them. You'd be amazed the different, if you line up everyone someone works with over the course of a few years, and same with you, man, all the different people you're going to talk to, you learn from them. So I've had people from doctors, I've trained pediatricians, I've had teachers, I've had engineers, I've had, athletes, I've had people just who never, all flocks of life. And I've asked and I've learned from them. I've had very successful business people, and and I'll pick their brain too, just as they're there asking me, okay, how should we go about getting my physique the way I want, or my nutrition the way I want? I was able to learn from them as well. So that was probably the scariest, was how do I run the business? I'm fine once I'm in the gym with them. I understand that material, but being the business side of running a little company was hard, because there's all the paperwork, all the intricacies of, tax season and doing this and understanding, okay, I need money for this, or you need to put something here for that, or how many people should I even take on realistically? How hard can I work till I reach a point where my quality of skill is lacking? And so that's still struggle. And being by myself, I would say also work-life balance. It's hard because you get attached to them. A lot of my clients I care deeply about, and they become a reflection of me and when I teach them. So it's very hard to take time from that. So I would say learning the business and continuing to learn what it's like, not just to be a trainer, but like you got to know business as well. And that's a whole other world. You can be great at what you do, but you got to learn, how to market yourself, how to sell yourself, and set boundaries for yourself. So I would say that, and then learning, how much work is necessary to do what I want to do, but at the same time, I want to go enjoy life and do things and create my own relationships, be with family and friends, and that can be a challenge at times too. I'd say those things: work-life balance, and then continuing to learn the business side of the body.
Yeah, man. Dude, thanks for sharing that, man, because I think I agree with you. When you do something on your own, the responsibility that comes with it, the taxing, the trying to make a schedule for yourself, not only for your business but your personal self, and just always having to do something. I think when you work for yourself, you always need to try to find work, or you always need to find that balance which you need. And I think, thank you for sharing that, because people like me and other people that are starting to learn what a business is like need to hear that.
Yeah. I'm glad it helps.
So how many clients are you taking on in this moment? How many clients do you have right now?
Okay, so it varies. The goal is, I feel very comfortable having anywhere from 25 to 35 people on a regular basis that I do all the work one-on-one with. I've had more at times over the years, and I've had less. And that's going back to that business part, because, if your income depends on how many people that you have. So there's hills and valleys, just in everything in life. But I've been pretty fortunate, and it's been honestly, it's been a blessing that I've been able to maintain steady people. And it never goes unnoticed. Sometimes I wonder how these people discover me. And, because I know there's options out there, and there's hundreds of wonderful, great trainers who are educated, well-versed. And, but anytime someone asks me for help, I try not to turn it down. I try to find a way to fit them into the schedule as much as I can. But I would say, that number I gave you is probably where I try to be around as much as I can be. Now,
Oof.
some of that can vary as well because I offer other things. So the nutrition, there's going to be some clients are strictly nutrition work where it's a little more, informal. I can meet them, at a coffee shop or at their house, or we can do a meeting like this. Then there's the one-on-one people in the gym that you work with, or if I'm doing clinics outside on the field in the summertime, because up here in northern Vermont, it's cold. It's cold. No, it's no fun doing sprints in 10 below. So even I don't want to freeze. So you see that as well. The time of the year, it can also affect the numbers.
Yeah.
I think most trainers could, I can't speak for them, but January 1st is a big time of year for us. New Year's resolution. Right.
That makes sense.
So
that makes sense.
People really are like, okay, new year, new me. What can I do differently? Well, maybe I'm going to get in good shape. I'm going to stay in health, because health is wealth. And if you are taking care of your body will reward you. So I would say January, February, March, things pick up all the time. And I think you can see that with a lot of type of businesses, right? There's always certain times a year where people are looking for a certain thing, right? I mean, just off the top of my head, you think of like, okay, Black Friday, all the sales. So retails, Christmas and January for all the holidays, everything goes up, right? People
Right.
who sell, people who car salesmen, typically 4th of July, Memorial Day, like summertime, people are buying new cars, in the winter slow down. I mean, I can't speak to all different businesses, but I'm assuming, they all cannot relate to the idea of hills and valleys with how many people you have. But that's also going back to the business part. You got to learn to budget. I do not do this to be a millionaire. Quite frankly, if someone, in my view, it's like, depending on where you are in the country, you pay very much different rates for personal training. It can be anywhere from $25 a session to $100 a session. So you have to, make sure your pricing fits the market that you're in. And also, it depends, because if the people who need you probably cannot afford certain things, right? Part of the reason why some people are unhealthy is, if they have children, especially, like, we all know how much it costs to eat healthy. I mean, it's crazy. So, if you want a trainer, not everyone can afford to have a personal trainer. So that's why those who do ask me for my help, I do try to do everything I can, to give them what they need and to give them that resource to help them, because that's a big, it's a blessing for me, but so I try to return the favor as much as I can.
We need that, man. So what was in the beginning, what was the hardest thing what was the hardest step for you in the beginning? Like when you had that first client, what were you thinking? What were the hard steps you had to take to get to where you are now?
Whew. I would say, I think it may sound cliche, but I think having, when the phone doesn't ring for a few days or a week or two, and you're starting to think, oh shit, oh no, like maybe I'm ass, maybe I'm dog water,
maybe
nobody wants my help, and you get your anxiety and your self-doubt, it rises, and you're like, I'm doomed. So learning how to combat that within my mind, and giving it time. Businesses, no matter if anyone does, people listening to this who want to start their own little business, it takes time. Like where I am now, I was nowhere the first 2 years. Like it was just building the name, have 5 or 6 clients, do well, hopefully they leave feeling satisfied and they got something from it. Word of mouth was huge, and that goes back to building that rapport and, caring and taking what they say seriously.
Right.
If someone comes in and say, hey, Pat, I'm having pain, and you're looking at their form and their form is fine. Well, okay, what's wrong? Is there a sciatica problem? Is there a thyroid issue? Is there an inflammation of some kind? Or is there a past injury that's flaring up? Taking these multifactorial things and trying to answer it the best I can, but also knowing when I've met my match. And what I mean by that is, any scary part of someone in this field is when you're working with someone, you just can't seem to figure out their body, and their body's resisting, the changes, and you've dialed in precisely the food, the training, the recovery, and yet something's going on. So it's like, okay, is there a medication involved that's preventing certain things, or are they not telling you the full story? Right? Because, I'm not there. When they leave the gym,
Exactly.
what do they do that night is, that they're grown. That's up to them. So I can't, and that's hard, because there's a pressure to feel like if they don't get what they want, I carry that with me.
Right.
And that can be really emotionally hard, because you care. And I want everyone to feel better, to go down in pant size, or to gain the weight they need, or to feel strong and not have pain, and when someone reaches a weight they've never lifted before, they never thought they could, that means something to me. So that's scary, when you've done all the things you believe to be correct and we're still not getting anywhere. And sometimes that means I'm not the person for them. And sometimes that means saying, hey, maybe I should refer you to this trainer, or this physician, or someone I know in physical therapy, or someone like that, and maybe that's the avenue they need to go on. Or maybe they're just not ready yet. Maybe they're just not ready to take it to a certain level of discipline that it was required, because that's one thing about fitness. And I actually learned this from one of my clients, when we talked about earlier about learning from them. He gave an analogy one day to me in the gym that not many things in life are a one-to-one return on your investment, right? You can put money in stocks, bonds, you could put time and energy into family and relationships, and that may not always come back to you the same way you had hoped. But the gym will give your body exactly what you give it. And that resonated with me for a while. I'm like, damn, how did I not think of that? Like, I'm like, yeah, and it's correct. Like, if you are disciplined with your diet and your eating, and you truly are going through those rings, your body will reward you greatly.
Yeah.
Exercise. One thing I like to preach is exercise and nutrition are eternal medicines. It's how our bodies have survived many crises through good eating, good training, good sleep, and drinking plenty of water. And so many people don't take care of themselves. So that sometimes they reach a point where they have to.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. And I would like to say this. When I was younger and when we met, I was working out. But the thing is, and I don't know if you remember this, I always wanted a six pack.
Yeah.
Always wanted one, Pat. I always wanted one. And I would work so hard. And I remember you telling me, like, dude, you gotta start drinking water. You gotta let that juice go. You gotta do
Yeah.
something to change it.
Yes.
Dude, you're running, you're doing all this, but you have to change it. And I think the thing that some people miss is you can work out as hard as you want. You can go to the gym 6 times a week. But if you do not change your food, if you don't
Yeah.
change your habits, then there's no point. And
Yeah.
that's what I didn't realize until I got older. So this is a great message, because I think a lot of people need to hear that. You can do all that training, but if you do not treat your body like a trophy, like you used to say, then it there's no point of it.
Yeah. And that's where I think a lot of people, when they hit that roadblock, their intentions are there, getting
Mm,
to the gym, that's wonderful, because sometimes that's just a big deal. I've learned over the years that there are, if some people are so, and rightfully so. I mean, let's be honest. If if you feel like you're not in good shape or you're not the most athletic, walking into a facility where all the athletic and fit people are, I can, I get it. I understand why people are nervous and why a lot of people go once and they never go back again. It can take one bad experience and it ruins them forever. Or they work with a trainer
Yeah.
who yelled at them, or a trainer made them feel worthless, and then that's it. They'll never. And I think that's something people who are used to being fit and athletic, who are comfortable in the gym, need to take a step back and remember that there could be someone over in the corner working with like a stability ball and some bands that we may think, oh, that's light work. But to them, that is a massive step, not only
Yeah.
for them, because 3 hours earlier they were on the couch, but something convinced them in their mind, the belief of themselves, to get to the gym. And I think that's a wonderful thing if they can start at the gym and then they can learn, okay, the gym's going to get you so far. Now let's look at what you're eating. Now let's look at how much you're sleeping. Let's look at how much water are you smoking? Are you drinking? How is your portion control? What type of foods are you eating? Are you taking any supplements? Are your medications affecting something? So I think getting them in the gym is a great first start, but to have the complete package or the 6-pack of fitness, you've got to definitely throw in these other variables as well.
Yeah. Can you share with me an inspirational story you had training one of your clients, that you saw a client, you saw that person from the beginning and you just saw them blossom?
Oh, okay. So I won't give out any names, obviously, for
Of
his
course.
privacy.
Of course.
But I still work with this gentleman, and I've seen success in different avenues. And when I meet, and I'll tell you that story real quick, but the answer real briefly, what I mean by that is sometimes getting a message from someone saying, "Hey, Pat, I haven't worn this dress since prom, and I can fit into that dress again." That I've had that, or someone saying, "I don't have any pain playing outside with my son. The pain's gone. I can run around with him." That hits hard. I've had, a good
Oof.
handful of people who have dropped 50 pounds. I might, that's extreme weight loss at that point. You pass the 25-pound mark. That's a lot on the body, both
It's a lot of weight.
both the physiology of your body and everything else. So when people lost that much weight and they say, "I feel like a new person," or "I didn't realize this was me underneath that." I've had situations where diabetics no longer needed as much insulin, getting them to the point where they may no longer need it. Type 2-ish, by the way. So I would say the most frequent one I can remember is the gentleman I'm still working with, middle-aged, so 50, 60-year-old mark. He got really into powerlifting with me and helping him lift weights. And at 140 pounds, young 60s, not very tall, that's a deadlifting 300 pounds, benching his body weight, squatting 230 pounds, and just seeing the joy in him from when we first met at his house, and him telling me, "I want to feel like I'm strong, and I've never felt strong, and I've always been smaller, and I've always felt this way." And it took about a year of training. That's another thing. It doesn't happen overnight, but a good solid year. And when he started hitting those numbers, I got an email from him, and he had said something like, for the first time in his life, he felt like a man. And that's, not to get emotional, but that never having, never having to ask myself, am I a man, and do I feel like I'm manly? And to have this gentleman reach a point in his lifting where he felt like a man, and to share that with to share that with me too. He could have kept that to himself. I saw enough joy in his face, but for him to say, "Hey, thank you, Pat, for not only being my friend, but like helping me. And, when you saw a problem, we made adjustments." And to say, for the first time in my life, I felt like a man. That one is probably one of the most memorable ones for me, because he still works with me to this day, and he's as strong as ever, and it's quite incredible. So I would say that would probably be it. That one simple that she said to me, really, and rightfully so. And I told him, with your height, weight, and age, the amount of weight you lift is phenomenal. Like, I'm not just saying that because I'm your friend and trainer. I'm saying you are in the advanced category for these three. Like, what you do is quite impressive. And just seeing his confidence go up and his change, or when I've had some young ladies, they feel like, their worth is not there because the way they look, and then they get stronger and they see that women can lift weights and they don't turn into a man. It's like, and they start joining the gym, and they just feel so great, and they sharing how wonderful they feel, or like this. And then they start buying gym clothes, before they would never buy gym clothes, and they'll say things to me like, "Oh, what type of belt should I use?" Or just, I don't know. It went from them never even wanting to be there to them saying, "Okay, this is like a lifestyle for me now. This is something I need to do this for me a couple hours a week." So seeing that, but I would say that gentleman, that was the biggest one recently. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Damn. Thanks for sharing that. I felt that, man. Dude, yeah, I appreciate that one. So can you tell me what are some of the stereotypes that we hear about gyms? And I want to ask you one,
Yeah.
because there are people out there that train, but they are training incorrect.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the biggest stereotypes about squats, about benching, and about deadlifting?
Okay.
Why are we training these certain exercises incorrectly?
Sure. Okay. So I'm going to break down your question for you, Ray.
Dude, you're the only person I know who can.
And like I said, I'm going to give my professional opinion on it. So the biggest problem I think the fitness industry faces, especially with the introduction of social medias and like TikTok, Instagram, which I don't have a TikTok, but I definitely use Instagram and Facebook to help, is everyone wanting to be muscular, fit, healthy, or look a certain way. And a blink of an eye, you have hundreds of millions of fit, gorgeous looking people on your phone. And you're like, damn, I don't look like any of them. So it's like, okay, I'm going to start going to the gym. And they walk in there, and the first thing, especially the younger men, and by younger men, I mean like high school athletes, especially. And I understand, they're reaching a point where they're trying to figure out where they are in life, and they're figuring out where they stand amongst their peers.
Right.
And my competitiveness gets to me too. Sometimes I get
You're a
jacked up,
Taurus.
and it happens. But my
You're a
bar
Taurus, bro.
exactly.
We're Taurus.
That's right. We're bulls. You're damn right. you feel. I think the biggest thing with benching first. Let's break it down. Benching. They try to bench as much as they can, as quick as they can. And that is the quickest way to not only blow out your wrist, but blow out your shoulder. Problem with benching number 2 is there's no emphasis on training the pectoral muscles from other directions. And what I mean by that is, real quickly, here's a little anatomy lesson. Our body moves on different planes. transversal plane, sagittal, bilateral planes, the way we move up and down, left and right, we twist, we turn. Benching is working your chest from a certain motion. Well, there's other ways you can do that with cables, with bands, with dumbbells, with, other machines. There's gyms now have incredible machines and technology we can analyze, but they go right to the traditional barbell bench press and they go, 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 go. And as much as it's great to see the enthusiasm, they got to learn, like, if you're just starting, benching the biggest weight isn't important. Benching correctly and learning how it should feel when you unrack a bar, drop it down to your chest, and then press up in a clean motion. Watching the pattern of the bar. Is the bar moving the way it should? Is your butt down on the bench? Are you doing a full repetition? Do you feel it in the pecs? Like, where do you even feel the tension when you're pressing? Or are you just putting on and using everything possible in your body to move it? And that's not even going to help the chest grow. So I think that's the big thing with benching, is not even caring about the other chest exercises, which will then help you bench press, and then working the muscles of the upper back to help stabilize the bar and other things, is getting away from the mentality that you don't have to bench big right off. Bench what you can and your body will respond. And then eventually you'll hit the weight you want. So I would say there's a big speed rush with bench pressing.
So before you move on with the bench pressing, right? What are some alternating workouts you could do that does the same thing for bench pressing? Because a lot of people think that in order for you to get a big chest, you need to bench press. But what are some alternating workouts that you can do just to get your chest?
So some of my all-time favorites. I love incline dumbbell pressing. I find dumbbells a lot safer for the shoulder, and each side of your body is responsible for its own weight, right? Whereas if you have a flat bar, you always can have a situation where one side of your body's pushing a little bit more than the other. You could have some instabilities and imbalances there. But if I have two, 60 to 70 pound dumbbells in each hand, that arm and that side of you is responsible for that. It can't get help from the other side because that side's dealing with that dumbbell. And I have found you can get really good contractions with dumbbells. Floor pressing, whether it's with a barbell or dumbbell, like a barbell floor press where you're laying on the ground and getting used to the bar coming down, your elbows hit the floor, which ironically will stop you at the point where most people get stuck. A little hint there, learning how to come out of that hole. Band work, band fly. So taking a heavy band, you don't even need a barbell, a dumbbell, or a cable, a heavy band, wrapping it around your back and just doing flies. You do 15 of those with a heavy band and your chest is on fire.
I love the band work. I love the band work.
You can really use that to help sculpt and tone your chest if that's what they're looking for. And I would say lastly, for a good chest movement, if you're just starting, learn how to do a push-up. Love of God, learn how to do a push-up, because if you can learn how to do a push-up, that's elbow mobility, wrist strength, shoulder mobility. You're working your upper back, your triceps, and your pecs all in one motion. And guess what? You can do it anywhere. So if you don't want to pay a $70 a month gym fee and then pay a trainer, which I totally understand, you can do that at home, anywhere, outside on the grass, push-ups, that old school kind of Rocky Balboa idea. Learn how to do a push-up correctly, and you'd be surprised, one, how hard it is for most people, even people who work out, doing a good, clean push-up. So I would say for benching, those are some other alternatives they could do as well. And don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of machine work. Machine presses, they help really isolate really well as well.
Yeah. All right. So now the squats, right? Yep. Before you break it down, before you give us your knowledge, I always had a problem with squatting. I think whether it was me going too wide or I wasn't putting my feet slightly on the ground, I always had a problem. Sometimes using more of my back than my hamstrings, not sitting, usually arching. Some of the things I had issues with, back squatting, mostly goblet squat, not so much. But how can you do a normal squat? What is the correct way? Because squatting is one of the hardest
Yeah.
workouts to master.
No, so you just said it. It's a good, efficient barbell back squat where if you have the long bar on your back, I've had times where that's all I've taught for the day. If someone like whether a gentleman or a woman comes in and they want to, whether they're powerlifting or body, but whatever they're doing, and squatting is an efficient motion because if you want to train your lower body, you're going to do some form of squat eventually. And that's the big thing I think for trainers to identify. And what I mean by that is if someone is struggling to perform a back squat correctly, so if they have what they call a vulgar or vagus knee, meaning the knee rotates in and rotates out, if they have inward flexion of their ankle where their foot rotates in, or if they have a spinal curvature problem, right? Or if they don't have enough even shoulder or elbow mobility to grab the bar behind them, they struggle to get that position tight. Right. Whatever that is, right? The first route I would go is to teaching them how to do a body weight squat. Hands across the chest, adjust their feet, watch them just sit down into a chair or drop down to the floor and see how low they go. And taking, an outside look at their hips, their knees, and how they move. And then if there is problems there, addressing those one by one. Let's just say there's no problem and they can do a body weight squat perfectly. The next question is okay, have you squatted before? And if you haven't, same ideology with the bench press, just start with the bar. Just start with the bar. Forget the idea you need to squat 315 pounds today. No, Rome wasn't built in a day. So put a bar on their back and then see if they can move correctly under weight. Right? So body weight's one thing. You add a bar to their back. Can they maintain that same correctness with weight on their back? If they can do that correctly and they're having no problem, all right, add a little bit more weight, and then we're going to see how many repetitions they can do. When do they begin to fatigue? And when they fatigue, is it just because it's too much weight or their form is collapsing underneath them? Because squatting is a little bit more dangerous. Then, it can go south real quick. Even if you do have a spotter, they can drop real quickly. And when you're dealing with any motion with your spinal column, you want to make sure their safety is always the top priority. But even going forward, let's just say you do all that and they're still struggling. How I would word this to you, Ray, is squatting, that may not be the correct exercise for them. It's a good exercise. No one's going to sit here and deny that squats are not the king of lower body, but that particular squat may not be good for them. So we could try, like you had said, a goblet squat, holding a dumbbell. Try a kettlebell sumo squat. You could try a landmine squat. You could do a Jefferson squat, a Bulgarian. You could do body weight jump squats with your body weight. You could use all the many different types of machines, the pendulum squat machine or a hack squat. Trying other avenues. And sometimes I think trainers get so fixated on a certain exercise because that's what everybody does. So it's like, well, why isn't your coach having you do squats, man? Well, I don't know. It's like he won't let me squat. Well, there may be a reason for that. That particular motion may not be good for you, or we're not ready for that, but we can squat this way. Excuse me. And that's going to get your legs just as much of a burn. Can you do a wall sit for a minute? Try that. See if that hurts. What I mean? Like
wall sits ain't no joke.
Exactly. But when you can get back to addressing those things and those things all line up accordingly, And then yes, you should eventually try to complete a back squat, in my opinion, correctly. And then feel comfortable with it, because you can do that and that will take care of a lot of things. And it's a good motion to learn, because in life you're squatting a lot. It's that's an exercise that's practical in the real world, where benching isn't so much. And not many times in your world are you going to need to do this. But squatting, every time you sit down and get up, you're squatting, or you're bending down to grab something off the ground. You're gonna squat, or if you're on your hands and knees, getting up off the floor. So creating these movement patterns and making sure your body is able to go through that. We may not think of it much now, being in our late 20s, but come 50, 60 years old, you're gonna want to be able to do that. And that's where I think learning how to squat over time will help with that.
Yeah.
So
I heard I don't know if this is necessarily true, but I heard squatting can prevent strokes in the near future. Like if you squat, I heard that you prevent strokes from squatting. Now I don't know if that's fully true, but I would wonder, what is your opinion on that?
Oh, well, I can tell you I have not heard that. But what I do know to be true is that exercise is directly related to longevity. The stronger your body are and your muscle tissue, and the more muscle you maintain through your life, the longer you're going to live. Now, that's accustomed to lowering blood pressure, healthier cardiac output, less inflammation, less likely to get hurt and injured, which is a big thing. And it delays osteoporosis and degenerate diseases of the bones and our discs. And people usually have less pain. And I'm not sure if there's a correlation between feeling good the way I look, the brain reacts, you feel good, you look good, and then chemically, is there a hormonal response? I don't know that much detail, but it wouldn't surprise me if in the future we learn that there is a relationship to certain amounts of exercise, or a particular exercise in what you were describing, that can lead to less likelihood of some illness.
Okay, and talk about deadlifting. Now, for me, deadlifting has become one of my favorite workouts. I actually, when I started deadlifting, I wanted to find an excuse to not deadlift, because I was so worried about the lower back. I was so worried about the hamstrings. Am I doing it correctly? But deadlifting has so many benefits, but so many people also say that deadlifting is not necessary. And I want to know your opinion and how to do a correct deadlift.
Yeah, okay. So that's a good question, man. So the first thing that comes to mind when I hear the word deadlift is, I hope they've done it before. Because it's I don't know if we can swear on this, but it's a real bitch. Because deadlifting is one of those motions where
it is.
You either can move it off the ground or you can't. There is no help. There's no leverage. There's no spring. There's no assistance. There's no momentum. You either can budge that weight off the floor or you can't. And if you can get the bar off the floor, can we do it safely so things don't break? And I understand the worry. There are a lot of very more famous fitness people who have advocated against deadlifting. And I understand the ideology. It's kind of going back to like squats, where if deadlifting goes south, it goes south quick due to the tension and the force it can place on your entire posterior chain. So from the back of your head all the way down to your heels. And depending on the stance, conventional or sumo, or in the way you grip the bar, hook grip, traditional or double overhand, you can have bicep tendon ruptures. You can damage your thumbs, the ligaments in your fingers. There's a lot. But at the same time, as a trainer, I do deadlifts. I do it to help strengthen my lower back because I'm taller. I stand around 6'3". But at the same time, that's also more challenging I got a lot more way to pull that bar
Yeah.
to get the lockout. So if someone's definitely taller, they're going to find it even more difficult, but it can be quite rewarding. So if someone wants to deadlift and they came to me the first time and they've never deadlifted before, same thinking with the bench and squat, starting with just the bar. Let me see if you can squat down, not bend down, but can you squat down, grab that bar and stand up correctly without your back rounding too much or your knees buckling in or you dropping the bar? Like, can your grip strength hold? Blah, 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 blah. Once you do that, and then you have to ask yourself this: what are we deadlifting for? Are we deadlifting for to lift the most weight I possibly can? Or am I deadlifting for health benefits or just to strengthen certain parts of my body? Most of the time, even if it's boys and girls, men and women, they want to deadlift a lot, because you can lift a deadlift in the gym, you feel like a god. Like, it's like, okay,
Bro,
yes,
it's when you bounce that weight up. That's when you
it's
feel like,
it's like bang, you're pulling. So I'm not the best deadlifter myself, but then again, I don't consider myself like a power lifter because, as we know, the people who don't know, powerlifters' primary goal is to be strong. It's not necessarily health or way they look. They want to lift the most amount of weight they can, and they do that by performing squatting, benching, and deadlifting, and sometimes overhead pressing or military pressing. But that's them. That's those are the three movements they train. That's it. They don't care about anything else, and that's fine. They know what they are. They know what they want to do. They go for it. But for the common gym goer, you can still deadlift, and that's kind of where I fall into place as well. Now, personally, for me, so I'm at 495 right now. I'm like 5 pounds away from 500. And
yeah.
I've tried for months to get to it. Now it's hard because when you run a business, I don't train as much as I used to, like when we were in college.
Mm.
But I train probably 4 days a week. So when I look at my own training, where I also learn new things and I take how my workouts go and I can help apply that to my clients, is deadlifting is one of those things where you're going to start off pretty strong, right? Once you simply learn how to drive your legs into the ground, right? You take the slack out of the bar, your shoulders are back, your arms are locked, you push it with your feet, pull it with your upper body. Most people are going to pull a decent amount of weight right off. And that builds that confidence. But the moment you add another 10 pounds and it doesn't even move, and you're like cranking on it with all you have, and the damn thing doesn't even budge, you're like, oh, it's like, oh
Oh
no.
shit.
It's like, how what's going on? I'm like, well, just like everything else, we have to progressively get stronger. And like you had said correctly earlier, your lower back, your hamstrings, your hips, are they engaging? Are your lats engaging? And that's where the form comes in, because myself, I deadlift with a traditional stance about shoulder width apart, and I'm a preference to double overhand. So I grab the bar like this. I don't use hook grip or conventional. I grab it double overhand. So my strength in my forearms and my grip play a big factor, because eventually I just can't hold on to the bar, because as you pull the bar starts to spin in the hand. So if this is the bar and I'm grabbing it like this, the bar wants to roll out of my fingers. It wants to open up my fingers. And that's why people go the other grip. So that could be an issue too. But to wrap it all up, deadlifting, jump up slowly, incrementally with the weights, and make sure your spine is protected. Excuse me. So put on a belt. If your hands are failing you, put some wrist straps on. Now, like I said, that's for the conventional person. Excuse me. If you are trying to compete competitively in powerlifting, the organizations have certain rules and things you can and cannot have. So you should just learn how to do as much weight as you can with your own body safely and effectively, and then you can move on from there. So hopefully that answers.
No. I appreciate that. And how do you feel about maxing out? What are your what is your opinion on maxing out?
Sure. Well, it's a good question too. It's hard to give universal answers to fitness because it's one of the sciences that doesn't really have a lot of universal answers, right? If you were to come on here, Ray, and tell me that the sun is radiating snowflakes, I'd call you a fool, right? We could dismiss that. That's not true. The sun isn't radiating snow. We know this. But in fitness, where a lot of it is, especially when you get into the exercises or training methodologies, a lot of it is opinion. Like, we do have literature and we do have science to back up certain things. Like, maxing out is a real thing. It's a training principle where you do one rep with the most weight you can correctly. Say that again, correctly. Doesn't matter if you do it. Yeah, if it's not a good rep, you shouldn't really recognize that as something you can do, right? So maxing out has a place. I think it's good for everyone to eventually know how much they can do, but that's only if you want to know. You know, if your goal isn't to be the biggest and strongest man or woman in the gym, then maxing out may not be needed. If you're a bodybuilder, an athlete, a power lifter, or a fitness competitor, you are probably going to want to know eventually where you stand. And then also being ready to understand that your max is your max at that moment in time. I can easily remember the first time I hit 315 on a squat. You know, that's like, or when people talk about benching, when they hit 225 for the first time, like, there was a time in your life you couldn't even fathom lifting that or squatting that. So your max wasn't going to be the same. So if you do max out correctly, I'd recommend having a friend or an instructor there, because you're probably going to want a spot. You're going to want someone there to be you, you know, safety again.
Yeah.
Then doing that and then being okay with those results. And then if you're disappointed, make adjustments accordingly to address that. And then you can continue to get stronger and stronger.
Yeah. My opinion on maxing out, I think, like you said, I think it depends on what you're doing. If you're a power lifter, if you're doing it for a sport, I think it's necessary. And it does give you an idea of how much you can lift and where your target goal is for the moment. But I personally think if you're just a regular dude going to the gym, trying to get your workouts in, I don't think it's necessary. I think the most important thing is to, for me personally,
Yeah.
is to rep as many as you can until you get tired. I'm more of a believer in that instead of maxing out.
A muscular endurance perspective. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. So my next question, I think this is a question I need to know because right now I'm in that stage. So I'm currently training a total body workout every day. So
Okay.
back, shoulders, arms, legs.
So you're doing a full regimen every day.
Full regimen every day. What do you think it is necessary to focus on, for an example, push pull, back, tries, shoulder, arms? Do you think it's necessary to do those type of workouts, or you think it is possible to do a full body workout?
In the short, yes, it's yes, you can have success with full body workouts. As long as you're targeting the muscles correctly and you're picking movements that make sense. I would say you could even probably get away with that if it was 3 to 4 days a week, especially if your eating is on point and you get to the gym. Now, the one caution tale with full body is, since you are doing every muscle group, if you're there for over an hour or something may be wrong. Typically, full bodies are very intense and they last 30 to 45, maybe an hour tops. And that's what they're designed to do. You get in, you get your reps in, you get your movements in, and you go about your day, because you are using a lot of energy and consuming and taking, putting a lot of tension on your body. The push-pull legs or upper body, lower body splits or 2 muscle groups a day, they all have a place. I would say If muscle growth or hypertrophy is your main objective, so getting larger muscles, not necessarily stronger muscles, because it's not quite linear. Muscles can get bigger, they get stronger, obviously, but it doesn't necessarily equate all the time. Is try to train each muscle group twice a week. Now, let's say you don't have enough time for that. Compound movements. So exercises that work more than one muscle group as well. Well, let's say, so like squatting, benching, deadlifting, shoulder pressing, barbell rows, dumbbell presses, dumbbell overhead presses, like things that, work more than one major muscle group. Well, let's say you don't have equipment. Well, then that goes back to my push-up idea. Push-ups, body weight squats, going for a run here or there, getting, training yourself as intensely as you can safely to help you reach the goals that you want. But yes, I think there's nothing wrong with doing some full body work if that's what you have noticed is successful for you and if it fits your lifestyle better. For me personally, I don't do that. I typically do push-pull legs, or I will devote one day to an entire movement. Like if I'm going to deadlift on Wednesdays, that's what I'm doing. And I leave everything into the gym. Right. I take a little bit more, like I said, I try to maintain more of an athletic perspective. I want to maintain my physique and be big and muscular, but if I can't run a mile in a certain time, I personally be like, okay, I'm too big. I'm going to back off a little bit. That's just me. That's kind of my guideline to Pat Magnant's health. If I'll get as big and strong as I can in the weight room, but if I can't aerobically perform this in this time, I'm too large. So I'll back off the weights a little bit. That's just me. Everyone should have a precise, even if it takes them a week to figure out what exactly is that they want. And I say that to you, Ray, because I've had difficulties where you can have clients they want, because I also design programs as well. So if someone wants a program, you're asking them, okay, well, what do you want? And if you don't know what you want, tell me what you think you want, and let's go from there. And that takes a lot. Sometimes they don't. They just say, I want to be fit. Well, okay. Well, what's that?
Hey, help me out a little bit.
Yeah, what does that mean? It's like going to the doctor's office and saying, I hurt. And the doctor says, where? And you say, I hurt. Well, you got to get you right. Yeah. So once they take some time and precisely tell you, I want to get super strong. Okay, there's regimens for that. I want to have a model physique or just get jacked. And I don't really care if I'm that strong. Okay, boom. I want to be able to run a marathon. Okay, boom. I want to be as lean as I can and a little bit of strength. Okay, boom. I want to be quick. I need to be able to jump, turn on a dime. Okay, boom. Agility, plyometric. Like there's avenues we can go. And what happens is the difficulty is they start and then they want something else. It's like, okay, we can't really do that right now. Like it's going to set us back differently because that's not what we've been training for. And that's the big difference between working out and training. So here's a good one for the refrigerator door. Working out is one thing. Training is another. Anyone can work out. Anyone can work out, and that's wonderful. That's amazing. It really is. But when you change the verbiage to I'm training or I have a trainer, what we do is precise. There is an objective to why we are here today. And that's what we're going after. If you want to work out, more power to you. That's great. But if you're training for this. You're training for this, right? A boxer is training how to be a boxer. He or she does not care if he can ice skate. He's not a hockey player, right? A basketball player is doing sport-specific things to be a basketball player. They don't care what their bench press is, right? They don't need to worry about that. If you're an offensive, defensive lineman in the NFL, you may want a big bench press. Maybe a good idea. But they don't need a vert. They don't need to jump as high as a guard does, right? So that's the difference when you look at those professional athletes. They're training for what they do. And you got to be okay with that. So if you're in the gym and you're having great success getting big and strong, but you feel slow, All right, so you start hitting the track, you start doing intervals, you start training aerobically, and you're enjoying that. But then you notice you're smaller, your muscles have stretched out, and you're not nearly as strong. Well, no, because you over time you trained your body to be proficient in something else, right? So
Right.
have a good, precise goal, and then changing the mindset to as we're not working out, we're training. Because when you're there saying, I'm here for this, you're far more likely to get more out of it than you are just going to work out, even though that's still nice.
So thank you for sharing that, by the
Yeah.
way. Thank you for sharing that. So, okay. My next question. I have a lot to talk to you about, man. It's been a long time.
Just hope my phone don't
So
die.
so so what workouts can men do to help boost their testosterone?
Okay, so what I can tell you about that is going back to lifting heavier weight, I would say is a good start. So pushing yourself with the weight. As far as the exercises go, definitely compound movements, squatting, bench pressing, rows, deadlifts, trap bar deadlifts, really high intensity work, I think is the best to have. From what we know, that actually has an endocrine response to hormone production. We know testosterone levels and growth hormone have acute rises, meaning it's temporary, but they do go up typically during a heavy resistance training workout, and they stay elevated for a little bit, but then they naturally drop back down. So heavier weight is probably a little more effective, and then doing more challenging movements. And ironically, the challenging movements are the ones we typically don't want to do. So that opens up an avenue of more reason maybe we should, if they're looking to try to access that idea of getting a little bit more of a chemical change. But as far as anything precisely, I can't really speak to as much, because I think those two elements precisely would definitely help that as well.
Okay. And what is the best way to get abs?
Abs. So there's an old saying that abs are built in the kitchen, and I would say that is so very true. And the reason I say that is because you can't spot target fat, right? So there was a big fitness thing for a while that if you wanted abs, just bust out 1,000 crunches. Okay, so no, what that does is that strengthens your abdominals, and they will grow, but you still have a layer of adipose tissue above your stomach, which you do need to have some fat. You can't walk around 3 to 4% body fat forever. That's not good. So leaning out through being in a caloric deficit, knowing how much of protein, carbs, and fats you need, and high intensity training. So I would definitely throw in a little bit of aerobics in that, and then training your body and letting your metabolism do the work. But you don't need to waste your time doing a bazillion crunches, and don't starve yourself either. Like eating too little can be just as detrimental as eating too much. But the best way you can bring your abdominals to light is definitely leaning out through your diet first. Focus on that first, because there are a lot of men and women who have really muscular defined six packs and they've never been in the gym. It's because they're eating.
I hate those people.
And some people are thinner and more naturally. It's hard. I'm 222 pounds, 220 pounds. Like it's hard to maintain a certain level of leanness at heavier you get.
Yeah. I've been training to get six pack for years, Pat, as you know, and I finally have them. I dude,
Yeah,
I remember the first.
I've seen your photos, man. You're freaking ripped,
bro.
Yeah,
The first time I seen myself with a six pack, I looked in the mirror. I had to look back in the mirror. I was like, dude, I am not losing them. I used to always tell myself that I will never lose them. Since I had them, it's been my goal, because I knew how hard it took just to get them, bro. And it I will never lose them.
Yeah.
I will not lose them. What is your favorite type of workout? What is your favorite type of
Um,
training?
I would say I really enjoy training legs. I know that's kind of a taboo for a lot of people. I enjoy
Mm,
training because I'm tall. I have long legs, but I have strong muscular legs, and I take a lot of pride in them because one, training your legs is hard, but I look at it from the perspective that these legs have to carry me the rest of my life, and I want the pillars to hold up the temple.
mm,
So I want a good foundation, and there's a lot of variety of leg exercises. I mean, you can go to so here in Vermont, we're very close to Montreal in Canada. Like it's literally like 68 miles from my apartment.
yeah, very
So
close.
city of 3 million people is like that. And I've gone up there the last 4 or 5 weekends in a row. It's like nothing. And the gyms up there, the amount of different equipment they have, you could go there for 2 hours and do 6 different squatting machines that position your body differently and just train you in different ways. So there's a lot of variety. Your legs are fun because when your legs get pumped up, it feels great. And it feels good to have strong legs, you know. And, oftentimes people always ask, well, what's your bench? And, I like to say, well, what's your squat? Like, what can your legs do? Like they are
Yeah,
large, some of the largest muscle groups in the body. Your legs make up over half of who you are, and it's all preference, but I do enjoy training legs for the variety, and I like having strong legs. I feel better having stronger legs.
yeah. All right, so we gotta talk about this nutrition, man. We gotta talk about nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
Um, dude, we are the fattest nation in, I think, maybe in the world. It's
There's a,
sad to
there's a lot of
say. It's
obesity in the United States.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's sad to say that a lot of these problems are caused in younger people. So as a person that knows a lot about eating right, a lot of person that knows about how to treat the body right from a nutritional standpoint, what can we do as a nation to solve this crisis? Because this crisis has been going on for years since we were little. What can we do to help solve this crisis?
Wow. That's a hefty question, man. And I don't know if I'm the one to give an answer, but I can tell you what I believed, what I would do, and what I know about nutrition. Now, just keep in mind, there's a major difference between nutrition and dietitians. I am not a dietitian, so their schooling is a little bit more advanced, and they do a lot more actual care and treatment with food. But as a nutritionist, you can go to a certain length, and most trainers should. You learn when you become a licensed trainer, you do learn some nutrition, but then becoming a nutritionist and getting licensed in that, there's different things. But I'm not nowhere near a dietitian, so I just want to make that clear. But I think one big problem is people aren't even taught how to eat. So when I sit down with my clients who have these questions about food, right, or they want a meal plan, or they want to know, how should I eat, especially if I'm training a certain way, you'd be shocked how little they know about food. And unless I remember taking nutrition classes in college, and learning, and it's like, wow, why am I 18 years old learning this? Why didn't we learn this when we were 6? And our parents, they grew up in a different time where food wasn't nearly as tampered with. Food was cleaner, it was more natural. Bread wasn't 13 ingredients. Bread was just wheat and certain things. It's So the food industry itself is so dramatically different because there's also 8 billion people on the planet, so we got to feed them, right? But I think it's a very multifactorial answer. I would start with, at a younger age, getting the school systems and every kid to just learn, the dangers of sugar. Not so much salt, but sugar. And understand that the things we eat are converted into sugar, glucose. And if it's not, it's turned into glycogen, which is a carbohydrate, which is stored in your muscles. And understanding, what fatty acids are and how your body uses energy. And what happens when you're consuming too much energy, you're overeating, which is very easy to do. What does your body have to do with that? Well, it has to either excrete it out or you store it. And then what happens if you're not eating enough and your body, you're very thin and you're sickly, and the damages that does is you're afraid of getting fat. So then you don't eat, and then that causes problems. So I would start with the idea of just teaching people, okay, here's how much you should roughly eat based off this. If you're in that range, okay, great. See if you can stay within that range for a few years and see how you look or how you feel. Any digestive issues, any skin conditions, any headaches. There's a lot of common illnesses can be changed by changing your diet. But you can change a man's faith before you can change his diet. Okay? I can tell you that right now. It's very easy. You can convert someone before they give up that certain food they like. And that's also, people need to understand, that's hard for people. Listen, I love cookies, and if I couldn't have another cookie,
yes, you do. Yes, you do.
If I couldn't have a cookie the rest of my life, what's the point of living? Like, that's you can't take away some joys of food either. That's not good. Especially if you are healthy and you're working out, you can treat yourself for certain things. So you got to treat yourself. But learning how much you should eat, avoiding extra sugars, understanding why is it that you don't like eating certain healthy foods? Is it because you just don't like the way it looks, it tastes? Maybe cook it a different way. Or maybe you've never even tried it and you think it tastes horrible, and then you try it for the first time and you enjoy it. How I kind of do it for myself is I eat very regimented now. As a trainer, it's in my blood. Okay.
Right.
I would recommend everyone to eat the way I do. But if they did, they'd probably hate themselves. Because it's not easy eating at a disciplined style. But my advice is for everyone, learn to eat for function, not taste. Or learn that food is nutrition. The science of nutrition is nutrients. Your body needs that to thrive. So figure out how much it needs in the form of calories, when I should roughly eat them. And if I'm eating this many calories and I still feel like shit, well, it's probably because the quality of those calories aren't very good. And here's a great analogy for you. If I told you, Ray, I need you to have a 500 calorie lunch. Okay. You said, all right, Pat. Some people will grab a Snickers and and it'll be 500 calories. That's what I asked of them. And that's fair. Some people will grab like a quinoa bowl or a chicken salad or an eggplant slider or something of that nature, 500 calories. Now, they're both the same exact amount of energy. Okay. So technically speaking, if they need to eat 500 calories at this point to help maintain their physique, they are both eating the same. But where the problem lies is how your body can use the 500 calories from the Snickers versus the 500 calories from like the chicken salad or the steak and broccoli or those fish or something, and that's where the science comes in. The candy, even though it's the same amount of cellular energy, is simple sugars, carbs, chocolate. Okay, it tastes amazing. It feels good. I have energy for about an hour and a half. And if my body can't use the rest of it, I'm either going to piss it out, shit it out, or I'm going to store it as fat. The whole food option, the chicken salad, the tuna, the sandwich, the wrap, you have complex carbohydrates, protein, fucking protein. That's what you need. Fatty acids, good ingredients. Your body can take the nutrients from those 500 calories. And that also means it's loaded with vitamins and minerals. and it can use that within yourself to repair tissue, to keep blood sugars level, to give you energy, to make you feel satiated, to repair injuries, to help your brain function, organ function. Even though they're the same amount of calories, there's a difference. It's the nutrients that we teach. As a nutritionist, that's what you want, right? It's one thing to eat a certain amount of calories. And once you can do that comfortably, now let's get a little more disciplined. All right, good. You've eaten your 1,800 calories a day. You've done that for a month. Wonderful job. That's honestly phenomenal, because now you're used and understand how to stay within a range, right? That eliminates the portion scare. But now I'm saying that 1,800 calories, let's see if we can get this many grams of this many grams of carbs, this many grams of fat. And then you can continue down that way of thinking as much as you need, but getting in the nutrients, learning how to avoid sugar and portion control. And then if I was ruler of the free world, probably make it cheaper, because it's hard. It's hard to eat healthy. And
very
I think
hard.
we said that in the very beginning of this, but I think that's a big deal. You know, if you're a single parent and you got kids, Happy Meal's the way to go. And I don't blame them. Are you kidding me? How are you going to feed 4 mouths for under $15 in this country? It's fast food. You can't go to Whole Foods. You can't. One slice is $7. Like, okay, yeah, your intentions may be better, but you're going to be broke. And then you're screwed. Like, then what happens?
Yeah.
So I think, you know, there's a lot more to it, but I think those would be a good way, you know, teach them while they're younger, getting them exposed to healthier foods, making it cheaper, learning to eat within a certain range, and then learning how to enjoy food and not be afraid of food, or letting food be something that, and you actually, because you're in Spain, correct?
Yes.
So my understanding is of European culture is, you know, the idea of sitting down and having a family meal, I think, can help, because you treat food as more as a ritual, whereas in the US it's go, 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 go. And so you're just stopping at a gas station or the Go-Go or the 7-Eleven, and you're just eating whatever the hell that is, and you're going. There is no idea of taking an actual lunch break. I mean, how are you going to have a half-hour lunch break and eat healthy? You got to find something quick. Where I believe in other countries, there's a lot more emphasis of sitting down, talking, preparing a nice portion meal, eating slower, letting yourself feel full instead of just scarfing. And then next thing you know, you've consumed 3,000 calories and your stomach can't even release certain hormones like leptin and other things that make you feel full, because you've just gorged yourself, because then you're so worried about going back to your job. So lifestyle and cultural impacts around food, I think, are huge.
Right. Because here in Spain, in the States it's 30 minutes, but in Spain, you have 2.5 hours, 3 hours.
Wow.
To eat. Yeah. So it is, I agree with you. It is a big difference. You take down, you get to sit down, digest your food, think about what you just put in your system. It's a lot different than in the States where you just grab, go. Oh, I gotta be here. I gotta catch there, grab and go. So the lifestyle definitely. What are the best foods for natural fats? Because a lot of people miss the point of you need fats in your system. And as you were talking before, it's important to get those fats. What kind of foods would you recommend for good fats?
Okay. So that's a good question. So once again, the body does need protein, carbs, and fats. Okay. It needs them. Eliminating one of those or two of those macronutrients will do you no good. Since the dawn of mankind, we have eaten those 3 things. And it goes back to one of my original points. It's just figuring out how much of those 3 things you need. And that's where there's 1,000 different answers to that question. But in the realms of fats are important for joint protection, lubrication of the joints, brain development, organ function, enzyme production. we need them. And the big one I can think of off the top of my head is like olive oil, fats that you can cook with, but staying away from like seed oils, like grapefruit oil and all those other like sunflower oil, like staying away from them, because what happens with those oils is when you cook them, their chemical structure changes when they heat up, and the body, it causes massive inflammation in the body, which over time causes disease. So oils like olive oil is great, coconut oil, avocado is a very popular one now. Avocado is great. Egg yolks, the fats in eggs are wonderful. In my personal opinion, a little bit of saturated fat from red meat's not bad either. Definitely avoid trans fats. Like, just don't even bother. Get rid of them. But so for like mixed nuts like cashews, almonds, pecans, the polysaturated, monosaturated fats, things of that nature. Those are the top ones I can really think of that I think are really commonly used, and they're good. I think they'd be good, especially if you're cooking or preparing a meal.
And what foods would you recommend for good energy? A lot of people say, after a workout, you should eat some type of vitamin C, whether it's an orange, blueberries, raspberries. What
Yeah.
is a great food to eat for recovery?
For recovery. Okay. So the best way to recover, there's a term that people call like the anabolic window, which is a fancy term for saying optimum nutrition uptake or nutrient uptake. And the idea is when you break down your muscle tissue from resistance training or working out, your body's now looking for fuel to repair the damage, right? That's how you get stronger. Excuse me. Carbohydrates and proteins combined would be phenomenal choice. So having like a tuna fish sandwich could be phenomenal. Or, the classic bodybuilding thing, chicken and rice, or some quinoa and some trout, or some white fish, or even a protein shake mixed with a handful of blueberries for the antioxidants and things like that. So definitely having some carbohydrates and some protein. You can definitely, I'd rather have someone have carbs and protein than just carbs, but I also would say just protein is okay, but for the best, having a little bit of both, especially if you've just trained hard, because you are going to want that spike in insulin at the end to help put nutrients into the cells, and you're going to want those glycogen restores to be filled. So a banana and peanut butter could be a great choice. Greek yogurt could be a good choice. Another good carbohydrate you could have is wild rice or sweet potato, or spinach and broccoli, those type of things, or oats, overnight oats, oatmeal is another good one that's slow digesting, things like that. So I'd say, yeah, carbs and protein after a workout would be great.
And what do you think about? Because I know you're big on supplements. You know what type of supplements to take and what type of supplements to stay away from. So give us your knowledge about supplement taking. Like, what supplements should we stay away from, and what supplements are good for recovery and for pre?
Okay, so I would say the first thing about that, in the United States, no supplements are regulated by the FDA. They are considered sports nutrition, and that falls into different laws. So there is no government agency saying this stuff is good for you or this stuff is technically safe. So all the products and all the GNCs, Vitamin Shops, Vitamin Worlds, that I'm a frequent shopper. You have to buy with a little bit of understanding that you're trusting the company that's making that product, that they're taking good quality care of that product. And that goes in by reading the label, like the ingredient label, seeing what's in it, and if you don't know, asking the workers, what does this source of protein mean, or how is this, just learning. If that doesn't work, what you could do, there are some companies that have their proteins or their pre-workouts, they go through what they call USP labs, or I think it's GMPs. There They're independent third-party scientist groups that test the product to basically prove, all right, this is actually what they're saying it is, and they test it for making sure it's good, high quality, and they'll put a little label on the product. So looking for brands that have that label is a big part. I think it's USP and GMP, something like that. Those are just labs that come in that the company hires to say, hey, can you test our protein powder? Or, hey, can you test these pills to make sure, they're up to a certain standard? Everyone, I think, this shouldn't necessarily rely on supplements because they're there to fill a gap, right? If you have a deficiency in certain vitamins or minerals, taking a multivitamin would be great. If you love working out, there's nothing wrong with a basic protein powder, whether it's plant-based or dairy-based. I personally prefer dairy-based because I also don't have a problem digesting dairy. So a whey protein.
Lucky you.
Yeah. It causes hell with you. You could take a fish oil for your heart health, a multivitamin just to kind of fill in the gaps, and a protein powder if you're just right after the gym or in the morning for breakfast. You don't have to get too deep into it because once you open up that door, there's a lot. If you're going to take creatine, for example, creatine plain monohydrate is great. 5 grams is a great clinical dose. That if you want to take BCAAs, branched chain amino acids on top of a protein product, because protein is amino acids chained together, you can do that. You don't necessarily need to, because like I said, you can. There's thousands of products, so you can, but as a general introduction, a multivitamin, maybe a probiotic for digestive health and keeping your stomach healthy with your microbiome, protein powder, fish oil for your heart, I think is a great way to start.
And what is what type of supplements should we stay away from?
Well, it sounds kind of simple, but the first piece of advice I give, taking away one that you have a bad reaction to. So if you can identify you taking a certain type of protein or you drink a certain type of pre-workout that makes you feel like shit, there's something in there that your body doesn't like. So get rid of that. As far as staying away from something, boy, that's hard because it's all subjective. So I would say if you go too far into the supplement world, you eventually get into performance enhancing drugs. Okay. Which I don't know, we'll have enough time before my phone dies, but there are certain drugs or compounds or products that are very strong and they're very effective and very addicting and can do a lot. If you can't buy it at a store, then maybe it's not for you. So if a store has it or a pharmacy has it on the shelves that the public can buy, relatively, you're probably going to be safe with it. And then at that point, you're just taking one that you think that's going to help you. If you don't feel it, then maybe it's not enough. But a good general rule of thumb, you look for those products with those stickers on it to identify that for purity. And if you can buy like your normal vitamin store or sports store, you're safe off with that. I wouldn't go too much deeper down that road.
Okay, before we end it, because I need to ask you a couple more.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your influencers. Who do you look at as a role model when it comes to training, and who are some of the people you follow?
Okay, so growing up when I was a kid, it was definitely my dad. My dad was very strong, very athletic, and him being like 6'5" and still being very strong and athletic, I was like, okay, so I'm not going to be
your dad's not human, bro.
Yeah. and he's still in law enforcement at 64 years old, and he still outruns and still outshoots all of them. He definitely he was the first one to bring me to the gym at 5 a.m. Oh, that was hell. I'm not a morning workout. But he was definitely my role model and he still is, because he still hits the weights very hard, and it's impressive to see. In college, I was a little bit more into the bodybuilding scene, and there was a bodybuilder named Kai Green.
Shout out Kai Green.
Yeah,
Yes.
I really, I looked up to him and his mindset and his philosophy. And one, he just seemed more real. Like, like he didn't bullshit. And I respected that a lot, because it's obvious they go down certain paths and a lot of them just deny. But he was open and transparent with everything he did to get the muscle he had and what he was doing and how he did it. And he was just very like, he talked to everyone, and I liked his training methods. So I would say him. And then fast forwarding to here I am now, 7 years into my little business, I would say what motivates me or my inspiration is probably my clients. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's because how fit and but seeing their willingness to want to be better helps me get to the gym. Because if I can maintain myself a certain way, they're going to want my help. There are some careers where you should have a certain image about you, because I would find it hard to believe they would want my help if I was 600 pounds. They probably won't buy, even if I had a doctorate and I published thousands of books. If I never worked out, ate like shit, and didn't take care of myself, it'd be very hard for someone to invest their time and finances with me. So seeing my clients put in the work and be disciplined and work out and ask questions and be coachable, that kind of motivates me too. So it makes me want to work hard. Or when I see some of them catching up to me, it's like, oh shit. like I got like as much as I'm proud of these people, it's like I can't let you pass me too.
Yeah.
That's
chill. You can't let that happen. No.
Yeah, that's the ego coming through. But yeah, I would say my dad, that bodybuilder Kai Green, I was a big fan of him in high school and college, and then probably just my people now.
Yeah, I don't know if you heard of this guy, but I'm pretty sure you have. He recently came out for getting caught using steroids.
Oh, Liver King.
The Liver King.
Liver King, yes.
Yeah, because for me, I love Liver King. I'm not stupid. I knew he was on something before he explained to the public.
Oh,
but I like his idea of living. So my opinion to you, what is your opinion about the Liver King?
Oh God. You know what's crazy? A friend of mine, do you remember I won't give his last name, but Jeff from college?
Yes.
He called me about 2 hours ago to ask me the same question. He wanted to know what I thought about it. So here I am again.
Yeah,
I want to make sure I reword it right a little better for this. Okay. Liver King. Super successful, super wealthy, super famous. He knew how to market himself. And the country, the United States being a capitalistic country, rewarded him vastly.
Yes.
Is he full of shit? I think so. Mm-hmm. I had a problem when he would deny his anabolic steroid use. Whereas me looking at this from what I do is like, how can someone sit here and think this is a natural human physique, that he's not drugged up to high hell? How is
my
he
brother?
How are people looking at this man whose abdominals don't even move and wonder how he could stay that jacked and look that young from the growth hormone? And it's like, okay, he's in his, I think, mid or late 40s. But listen, let the buyer beware. If people bought his products, you know what? Good for him in that sense, because he did indirectly, kind of through deceit, convince more people to be active and healthy. So I can't sit here as a trainer and someone who's made my living off fitness and helping people be active and healthy, shun that. Because even though he lied and his physique came out of a syringe, I mean, the guy's an icon. Everyone has, if you're even remotely involved in fitness, you've heard of this guy, this gentleman. So he gave an apology ish. It is what it is. Like, I knew he was full of it, but I liked watching his videos because I do think his ideas came from a good place.
Yeah, exactly.
Trying to live a certain way. But then again, he made, I don't even know how ungodly amount of money. So something tells me, you're living in a mansion. You're not living in the woods. You're not roughing it, bro. So we're teaching this primordial, and I love that way of eating. I eat organ meat. I eat liver. I don't eat raw testicles. I'm not quite ready for that yet, but liver is a superfood. Liver is the blueberry of meats. So that's great. I love that. He encouraged people to work out and be healthy, but I just don't understand how you could lie like that. I think he would have even been more successful if he said, yeah, I do follow these ways of living, but I also take a little bit of this, and maybe teach people how to do that. Imagine that. Imagine if he went that route. I said, yeah, I do take drugs. Kids, you're not going to look like me unless you take Tren or Deca or Winstrol Growth or Halodrol or Anavar. I've studied those, but most people haven't. So if he said, I do take that, here's how I cycled them. Here's how I PCT'd after. Here's what I took to protect my liver, ironically. And here's what I did for my kidney health. Imagine that. And I still believe in, avoiding sugar, getting outside, living in that ancestral way. I think he would have been even more successful.
Yeah.
But, I don't know, man. Maybe the idea was deny, and everyone will freaking forget about it. I don't know how those things got leaked. All I know is he took a lot. And unfortunately, I don't know if you read the things, but he took a lot in high dosages too. Good, godly. And I fear for his health. Like, as someone who's in the health, like, not clinical health field, but preventative care stuff with the training, I'm like, you've taken years off your life, man. And unfortunately, you may look phenomenal on the outside, but your insides are fucked.
Yeah,
I don't know how to say that, but like you're
fucked.
Yeah, you are. And I wish nothing but success for him. I mean, everyone has the right to take a shot at life. So and the young men and women of the country who saw him and it motivated them to work out, well, then technically he did part of his job. I just wish people weren't so naive.
Yeah.
Come on. It bothers me that there were so many people who thought that was attainable, because you could look at it from the other side of the coin. What happens to all the young men and women who are training their ass off and they think, well, he's natural, and they're doing all the right things and they get nowhere near his physique? That's on him, because they believed him. And I don't know, but I'm sure over the course of his career, he was confronted many times asking if he took drugs, and he flat out said no.
Plenty of times.
Yeah. So it's like, if you're able to look someone in the face and blatantly lie, what else were you lying about? Do you actually even believe those things that you say? Because if you're only seeing him on TikTok or Instagram, you don't know what he's actually doing in his free time. He's major, wealthy, successful, and he's fucking jacked. Like, I'll give it to him. He's jacked. He's jackeder than me. I gotta respect that. At that one point, he made a decision to take compounds that made him superhuman looking. Okay, I can't be jealous of that, because I don't look that way. If I went down the same route, maybe I could. But at the end of the day, the man's in great shape. I just worry about your inside. his organs. Ironically, he eats organs, and his organs may be dying. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but
Yeah. With the
yeah, that's
Liver
what I
King.
think about that. It got leaked.
with-
He's going to have to deal with that. I'm not sure what's going to happen. I don't know. I don't have nearly an online presence at all as he does, but it is what it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
People
With the
mess
Liver.
up.
Yeah.
People,
With the Liver King, man. I was, of course, I was attracted to what he was putting out there, the message, but
yeah.
also I knew that he was taking steroids. The thing for me, my final take on that would be, I think it would have been best if you told the truth at first,
Yeah.
because it could have gave a people. First of all, it gives people false hope, like you say, and
Yeah.
people that work hard, they look at this guy and it's like, well, wow, if he's like that, then there has to be a chance for me, and there's no chance without taking these type of
Oh, yeah.
drugs. So
Yeah. No chance.
I think he should have just came clean.
Yeah. So
All right.
the truth will
So
always be.
truth will always be with you. So
Like,
let's talk about the future before we wrap it up. Before we wrap
yep.
up the show, let's talk about the future of Magnant Muscle. Where do you see yourself in the next 3 years? Where do you see your business going to?
Okay. So I've given this some thought.
Mm.
My first thought actually was continuing this job until, let's see, I got another year. And one more year, I'll be 1, 2. So maybe doing it for 3 more years, actually. Make
Mm.
it 10 years. I've done it for 7. Make it 10 years. I'll be 32. At that point, I thought about maybe doing it for 10, seeing where I am financially and, life, and if I have a girlfriend or a family or things like that. And then I thought about going into law enforcement like my dad, giving this 10 years of my life and devoting it. And I'd say that because there's that fear, remember, the hills and valleys of clients. Like, I can't, I'm doing very well. I'm very happy. And I've sustained that for the last probably 2 years. I've maintained very high. It hasn't really dropped at all. And but it's I can't maintain this volume of people for the next 40 years of my life. One, I don't think my body could.
Mm.
Plus doing my training. So I thought about doing it for another 3 years and still, between 32 and 3 years from now, I'd still be really young, and then doing something more of a steady, career or like that. I also thought about just continuing, and then if I can retire early, because I live a pretty simple lifestyle, and I'm able to live the way I want. I don't do a lot of partying. I don't buy a lot of expensive things. I kind of live by a rule, if I could not, I'm not a financial person, but I have some really close friends who I consider brothers in finances, and they've helped me with that. But if you can't buy it 3 times, you can't afford it. So if it's $100 pair of shoes, if you don't got $300 in the bank, you can't afford it. So living off that philosophy has helped me a lot. I've thought about, well, if I continue at this rate, hiring somebody, bringing on an employee, expanding a little bit. I have done that in the past a little bit. I've looked to other people, and where the hang up with that was I felt like their heart wasn't in it. They wanted to do it just for the paycheck and whatever, and the hours or whatever it was. I didn't feel, because you remember, I am Magnant Muscle, and every single client from 2015 to now has gone through me. There was nobody else. I did everything from the first phone call, the first sit down meeting, to the very last session. It was me. And if I'm going to hire someone to help me with the load, and I am, I'm working with people here and he's at this facility doing this, I'm going to expect a very certain level of authenticity, compassion, knowledge, and quite frankly, give a damn. Because if I was ever told by a client, hey, you sent me to this guy and he didn't really seem to care, or I think he kind of rushed me out of the gym, or that's going to piss me off beyond relief. Because part of the success of what I've had is that whole being is the strongest muscle is your heart. Like, people aren't going to care, necessarily they will care about the gym and the results, but they're going to care how that you made them feel. They don't, just like our friendship, man, people will come into your lives, even if they're only there for a few years, but you'll remember how they made you feel. I don't care if I've met someone for 10 days. If we hit it off like that and it was a blast, I'll remember that. Then if I've had friendships that got ruined because they turned out to be deceivers or liars, or they hurt me, that ruins it. Right.
Right.
Building that. So I think if I do another 3 years and I continue, definitely expanding, hiring. There was talk about maybe one day, if money's right, buying a facility and bringing all my people to one location.
Good idea too.
I don't know. That would cost a vast amount of money. But as of right now, I'm very happy with it. I wake up, I go to work, even though it's every day. I enjoy it. I enjoy seeing my clients and hearing their stories and working with them. I like the freedom of knowing I'm my own boss. So, if I'm sick, I don't have to get permission to call out. I don't have to jump through hoops. But on the same side of that coin, I don't get sick leave. I don't get paid time off. If I take a week off to go visit family or friends somewhere, I don't do sessions that week. That means I'm not getting paid. So there's, it's not all sunshine and rainbows being self-employed. There's a lot of reward and there's a lot of risk. And you just have to learn to figure out what's worth it to you. Right. But yeah, so those three, either maybe eventually buy a facility, hire someone else, or give it another 3 years, which will be 10 years, and then go down a different path. So, yeah.
Well, I hope you are able to do what you want to do and do what's best for you in this next step. So before we end the show, we always end it with a inspirational message or something positive, something to help people keep going. So for you, I want you to give this message out, because you've always been good at giving advice. You're very good at that. You always have been. So for a person that is trying to change their body, trying to see the better person or the potential they see themselves in the mirror, what inspirational message do you have to that person trying to change their body, trying to change the way they are, trying to be consistent with their health, their nutrition? What message would you give to that person?
Let me take a moment to collect my thoughts. And while I think of that, you got to remind me, I can't wait for you to come back so we can hang out, please.
Yeah.
It's been way too long. Okay. I think what I would tell that person is a kind of a combination of things. You are worthy of being interested in. I'll say that again. You are worthy of being interested in. So whether that is a man or a woman thinking no one cares about them, no one supports them, no one likes them, they can't find anybody, no. You are worthy of being interested in. And there are people out there who will see that. You just got to find them and be patient. You can apply that to your fitness and the idea that your body is interested in you. You know how you feel better than anyone else will ever know how you feel. You'll know yourself better than what a doctor, to a doctor, you're just a number on a lab sheet. but you know you. You know you've only had you. From the moment you were walking, you had yourself to rely on. At the end of the day, you have to wake up and be like, I gotta do this for me. No one else is gonna be there. I have to know at the end of the day, the roof over my head, the clothes on my back, the food in my stomach, and the way I physically feel, and the lack of sickness I've had is because of my efforts. So you are worthy of being interested in. The other piece I would say is kind of what I've been using lately is you treat a disease, you win, you lose. You treat a person, you win every time. And I think that builds off the idea that take care of yourself and learn that it's a journey. This is a marathon. This is not a sprint. And learn to like what the gym does. And even if that simply means for 2 years, all you do for 2 years is you go to the gym twice a week and you walk on a treadmill for 45 minutes and you bring an iPad and you just watch a movie. You were able to turn off the world and all the bullshit and all the chaos and drama and malevolence to just be there, and you walked and you burned some calories and it made you get up and leave the house and you did something. Even if you didn't talk to a soul, you just gave your body a little bit of movement. And to wrap it up, I would just say there are people that care. It's hard to see that when you feel alone. But reach out to someone and you might be surprised the results you get by saying, hey, would you want to go to the gym with me, man? Or hey, girl, like, would you just want to go for a walk or a jog? Or do you want to take the dogs to the dog park? Reach out to somebody if you feel that you're at that place, and know that you are far more than what you could be. And that all starts with a thought saying, okay, I know I'm good at this skill. Now I just got to show the world that I'm good at it and find a way I can use it to, make a little money. And even if you can't make money with it, do it so you are happy. Do it so you still enjoy it. So you are worthy of being interested in. Treat a disease, you win, you lose. But if you treat a person, you will always win. And then find one person that just says, hey, man, good for you. Even if it's a text, good for you for hitting the gym. Or even if sometimes what I'll do, I'll text former clients and say, hey, long time no see. I hope you went for a walk today. God bless. Send. Even if they don't go for that walk, I know that I at least put a little twinkle in their ear, and they were reminded to, get up and do something. So I think that's what I would tell somebody, because it can get hard and it can get lonely. It can get scary. It can wear on you. But if you can remember those things, I think they will take you to a better place. And there was something I always used to tell you. And may they live free and seek peace.
Seek peace. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, man. Thank you, dude.
Welcome.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much for sharing that message. It has been a pleasure to have you on, man. I know we've been trying to, get schedules, but dude, you made it today.
Hard, yeah.
The people need to hear this content, man. When we release this, I think a lot of people will get a lot of information that I got from you.
And I would love to get a copy, and I'll post it on my social medias because all my clients, I'm sure, want to hear it.
So there's plenty
of people over here in Vermont that are going to want to hear this.
Of course, bro. Yeah. Of course, I got you. But thank you so much, man, for speaking your knowledge, man. I'm so happy to put this content out because your passion, your love, and your information and the way you want to see people grow their body and their mind is just amazing. So I think it's necessary for me to have you on here. And this has been Just a Thought podcast. Magnant Muscle,
Thank you.
aka Patrick
Thank
Magnant.
you.
Thank you
Oh,
so much,
God.
my brother.
Thank you, man. It's been great.
Yes.
Thank you, my man. Good to see you.
Yes.